I felt that, Ayuk's performance felt consistent to me in the sense that it was similar to what we saw before. And so, on the one hand, it might be easy to say, you know, he didn't improve, but maybe there are subtle improvements. Did you detect anything? Any changes?
Was he better than last week? Yes. Was that good enough? Not for $30 million. Not for $30 million. He wasn't good enough for me per se. I think that when you're on a superstar team like this and you want to dominate and really be a star, you got to prove that you're a star. You can't just say you're a star. You have to prove it every single week. It can't just be, in your mind that you're a star. It has to show up at practice. It has to show up when you talk to the other guys on the team. It has to show up on how you deal with stuff outside the media. It has to deal with the media. It has to deal with the coaching. It's the way you prepare. And from what I gathered, yes, he was better than he was last week, but it's still not even coming close. It's not coming even touching what Justin Jefferson was doing. And he wants to get paid. Like that's the part for me. This was a great showing of what a true $100 million wide receiver looks like. A true example of it. We saw Justin Jefferson on the 2-yard line, beat double coverage, gets behind the secondary, and scores a touchdown for 98 yards. We won't get that from Aiyuk at any time of the season. Not because we're not asking him to do that, but because he just doesn't have the depth of skill to do that. But you're asking for top wide receiver money.
Well, question for you. Do
Yeah.
you think he has that potential? In other words,
No.
is it a mental thing, if in your perspective, or is it a physical skill? What comes out of just raw practice?
I think it's both. I really do think it's both. I think Aiyuk is a great wide receiver. He is a great wide receiver. To me, is he top 5? Hell no. He's not a top 5 wide receiver. To me, he's a top 8, 9. But we're paying him like he's a star, and he's not. Debo is a star. Debo this season is playing like a true number 1 wide receiver. And that's not even how the NFL or fans view Debo. We see him as a gadget player, someone who can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. He's the person that, you know what I mean? If you need him to throw the ball, you need him to run the ball, if you need him to pass the ball, if you need him to do anything, he can do it with the ball on the offensive side. Aiyuk is supposed to be the person who's the best route running, the person that can do all these different things, and he's not doing it. And it's because he wasn't there in the offseason. It's because he wasn't training with the team. It's because he was, dicking around and not taking things seriously. And it sucks because you're actually seeing what happens when you hold out, you're not with the team, you're not working with your quarterback, and we're seeing the downfall of him not being there. And even when I think about Brock Purdy, this was a struggle game for Brock Purdy. Absolutely. This was a huge struggle game for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy had the opportunity to take another advancement in his growth, and I feel he took steps back because of what the coverages was giving him in the secondary and the linebackers. It's easy when people are just standing there still. But I felt that the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff did a great job of facilitating and making sure we're taking away everything that Purdy loves to do. And then we're going to blitz him on top of that. And we're not just going to blitz him. We're going to send the blitz coming from the opposite side of what Trent Williams. Y'all gave Trent Williams $100 million. Let's show you why he's not worth it. And they exposed Trent Williams. They exposed Brock Purdy. They blitzed from his blind side. And they made really Trent Williams have to think more than just reacting. And if you ever watch like old Trent Williams games, he's doing a phenomenal job because he's just reacting. He's not having to think because people really don't test him. The Minnesota Vikings really tested him. They tested him. He gave up 2 sacks, maybe 2.5, maybe 3. But this was a game that Trent really had to work and earn his paycheck, and he had to step up. And they was bringing him multiple different guys coming in. They had corners dropping into blitz. They had safeties coming down. They had linebackers, opposite linebackers. They had everything coming to him, and it just wasn't a good game. From the kickoff, from the start, the Minnesota Vikings really had a hand in dominating the 49ers. And I'm going to be honest, I felt the Minnesota Vikings wanted this victory more than the Niners.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from what I'm getting out of what you're saying, they did their research.
Absolutely.
They did their
Absolutely.
deep research.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it sucks that when you have such a Super Bowl caliber team that coming into the next season, they don't want to take every single team seriously. Mm-hmm. They just want to get to the playoffs and, but it doesn't work like that.
Do you think there's any risks to taking every game seriously? For example, could it lead to more injuries? Could it lead to more mistakes in certain ways? Or is that always what you should do, take every game seriously?
You should always take every game seriously. You should never doubt your opponent, because anyone can win any given Sunday. But when you have spent the money that the 49ers has spent, no, every game should be, no, we're going to dominate. The 49ers couldn't do that this game.
Does it sap your energy, do you think, as a team overall, including coach?
Absolutely. When you get to the Super Bowl and not win it, when you've been that far in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl and not win it, it does take away. It does drain something out of you. As a player, as a fan, just supporting the team, podcasting, it does take something out of you. At the same time, that's like one of the greatest things about football. It's only for 5 months. And then you get a break, and you get to come right back at it and do it again. So no matter how that offseason was, you have to come back and be perfect again. And for some reason, this was a good thing. I think it was good that we got punched in the face early.
Yeah.
I think it was a really good thing for us to get punched in the face early, for us to really get our shit together and say, hey, this isn't last year. Last year's over and done with. This is a completely brand new year, and we have no choice but to step it up and be better. Because if we're not better, then this was going to happen. People are going to punch us in the mouth, and we have to do better. From Kyle Shanahan's play calling to Brock Purdy, he had nothing. And here's the thing. That offensive line blocked their asses off, but there was no one open. So Brock Purdy needs to do a better job at saying nothing's open, check down, run out of bounds. And that's kind of like what he didn't want to do. He just sat in the pocket. And when you sit in the pocket, of course, offensive linemen are going to give up sacks. And that's what happened.